resolutions for implementation by the member states. Please join me to welcome Professor Bukurura to the chair. Professor Bukurura, please take chair and proceed.
Thanks much, Mr. Moderator. As we come close to the end, this is an important session regarding resolutions. The resolutions have been drafted by the Secretariat and CEOs of member states, PRAs, have gone through the resolutions. I will ask Casto Komba to do but before he does, may I ask you to take note that we are going through the principle embodied in the resolution and not necessarily the editing of the resolution. Let's try as much as we can to agree on the principle in the resolution and leave the Secretariat to do the actual editing of the proper English words. Casto Komba, where are you? Yeah, Casto Komba will take us through the resolutions. Karibu.
Good afternoon. My task is to present the resolutions which have been drafted as the chairman has just introduced. And so far we have 5 proposed resolutions. And I'll go through the resolution a quorum. I'll not read the issue behind the resolution. I'll just go straight to the resolution column so as to save time. The first resolution is that the authorities, when I say authorities, I mean the authorities from the member states, the public procurement authorities, should engage the ministry in charge of East African community to come up with the local content strategies which are in line with East Africa Community Protocol. And so this is a task that goes to all the regulatory authorities in the region. And this is supposed to be reported back on to the 13th East African Procurement Forum. So what is the modality, Chair?
Okay, thanks, Komba. Let me ask colleagues, what do you propose? Do we go through each resolution and finalize it, or do we cover all 5 and try to make contributions to all of them? What are your proposals? One by one. I heard the voice one by one. Okay, let's look at resolution number 1. Contributions, remarks regarding resolution number 1. Let me start from this side. No hand. This column here, any recommendation, any suggestion? Resolution number 1. No hand. This, yes, please, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a comment. It's better maybe you take it through from the issue, and then to go to the resolution in order to participate if the resolution has covered the issues which are discussed. Comment.
Thank you. You are suggesting that we look at the issue that gives rise to the resolution. Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir. Someone in the middle here.
Thank you. I'm looking at ACTA, and I think it should be actors, because by nature, these policies will need a multi-stakeholder approach. For instance, you put non-state actors and also the role of industry or private sector.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
It's very minor, but where we have the word local content with an S, it should be local content without S.
Secretarial item noted. Anybody else on this side? Yes, sir.
I think the word it is correct. Local contents. We are talking about local contents of different countries in the region and not one country.
I noted earlier that let's try to grapple with the principle at the center of the resolution instead of trying to edit the wording, because let's actual editing. Noted. The Secretariat will take note of that. Anybody else? Let me come back on this side. Anybody else? No. Should I go this side again? Anything else? There was a suggestion that we look at the issue behind the resolution so that it can inform us on whether the resolution is properly capturing the issues concerned, which I think is a good thing. Take time to look at the issue, and we will use the issue to draft the resolution. So there is no comment on resolution number 1. Can I ask Komba to move to resolution number 2?
Thank you. So I will be displaying both the issue and the proposed resolution. So you can take a look at the issue, but I will go straight to the proposed resolution. So the second resolution proposed is that each country should review and consider the possibility of adopting open contracting standards. And this is the assignment goes to all regulatory authorities, and it has to be reported back to the 13th East African Procurement Forum.
Thanks, Komba. Resolution number 2, let's move from this side. Any comment, any suggestion regarding issue number 2? There is no hand on this side. I can see some people, body language suggesting they are getting tired and they're holding your chin, which suggests that all is not completely well. Anybody here? Any suggestion? This is a very important exercise, colleagues, because these resolutions have to be reported to at the 13th forum. Anybody on this side, in the middle side? Yes, sir. The gentleman in a draft shirt.
Thank you, Chairperson. I have no comment, but I have a suggestion. In Tanzania, we have PPRI based on Tanzania mainland, but we have ZPPDA based on Tanzania Zanzibar. We are at the same country, but different regulatory authority based on procurement. I propose those resolutions to be agreed here, to be considered that there is a Zanzibar, there is a Public Procurement and Disposal Public Asset Authority with a full mandate and a legal perspective. So for those resolutions, we have taken consideration of presence of Zanzibar Public Procurement and Disposal Public Asset Authority. Thank you.
Very interesting remark. May I ask the Secretary to handle that? Take note that for purposes of Tanzania, there are two authorities, which means for purposes of the actors, it should include Zanzibar Procurement Authority. Thanks very much for that. On this side, any observation, comment, remark? I see no hand. This column here, any comment, remark? I see no hand. People far right? Yes, sir. Gentleman in front.
Thank you very much. When I look at the issue where you are mentioning some member states have not yet bought in the doctrine of open contracting, I don't find it as an issue. Maybe the way it is phrased, it doesn't reflect to be an issue because we saw it as a new concept yesterday. Then it should be made clear how maybe it helps. But the way it is phrased, in my view, it doesn't reflect as an issue. Thank you.
What suggestion do you make? Do you have any suggestion to make?
I don't have much knowledge about that, but I think maybe you should add a word showing how it helps.
Open contracting, the doctrine of open contracting looks like a new concept, and member states should consider reviewing and possibilities of adopting it. Does that help?
No.
Okay.
Well, why do we need open contracting? That's what I'm saying there. It should be have not yet adopted it. Yet it has been seen that it is important maybe I think the one who proposed it can phrase it in a very understandable.
We see what you mean. Secretariat, not that. Can you try to find, members of the Secretariat, try to find a way of bringing it out, the significance of the doctrine of open contracting and its importance, and then make it a resolution from there. Secretariat, that you can do. Thanks very much. Should I go through the columns again in case I have missed a hand? Anybody who wants to contribute to resolution number 2? No. Okay, Komba, resolution number 3.
Okay, thank you. So resolution number 3 is that the authorities should embrace the application of electronic government procurement system. And this goes to all regulatory authorities. We know some of the authorities have already started, but some of them are still, the plans are still underway. And this is also supposed to be reported back to the 13th East African Public Procurement Forum.
Thank you, Komba. EPG, any comment, observation, remark from this side? I see no hand. This side, you have taken leave. May I go on this side? Any comment, remark regarding resolution number 3? I see no hand. You have also taken leave. This column here, any comment, remark regarding resolution number 3? I see no hand either. Participants on this side, anything regarding resolution number 3? There is no hand. People on this side, anything to add? Yes, sir. Thanks very much. I see your hand. Gentleman in here. Thank you.
I'm just going to talk about the comment on number 3. The authority should embrace the application of e-government procurement systems. what authorities are talked about there. I find a need to clarify on that point. We should be specific. What kind of authorities are responsible for that? That's my comment.
Thanks very much. The Secretariat have indicated when they talk of authorities, they are talking of regulatory authorities in respective member states of East Africa. Those are the authorities who should adopt, who should embrace the application. So I think they made clear this at the beginning. Thanks very much, though. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Actually, his comment has reminded me that we shouldn't talk about authorities, but to talk about member states, because some of these systems are being developed together with line ministries and also other authorities which support the networking, the backbone infrastructure. So it should be member states should embrace.
Interesting. This is a very pertinent observation from CEO of Uganda, am I correct? We tend to think that the authorities are working on this themselves, but in actual fact, the authorities, the respective regulatory authorities are the cornerstones, they are the champions of the exercise who have to work with other stakeholders, especially the ministries concerned. Because embracing has to start, the suggestion can come from the authorities, but it has to be taken back and forth to the relevant authorities. So the suggestion here, Secretariat note, is it should be the member state, the authorities together with, will that make more sense? The authorities together with the respective ministries in member states. That will be elaborative enough, will make the actors then would be regulatory authorities together with the ministry, relevant ministries in member states. Will that cover your concern?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much. Yes, sir.
Why can't we say member state authorities? Just to clarify like that.
Thank you. Secretary, let me go back to the gentleman who noted your observation. How good will that help you? How that will help the member states? How that will help the authorities if it's crafted that way?
Mr. Chairman, I would go with your proposal because that may not change much from the original submission.
Thanks very much. Secretariat, please note those observations. At the end of the day, we agree with the principle. The actual wording should be taken by the Secretariat. I think we are together. Okay. Resolution number 4, Komba.
Thank you very much. Resolution number 4 is promote and strengthen the partnership between non-state actors and regulatory authorities in contract monitoring. And this goes to all regulatory authorities, and it has to be reported back to the 13th East African Procurement Forum.
Thanks very much, Komba. Colleagues, comments? Let me start from this. The body language at this point of the day seems to suggest people are getting tired and they are holding on. There's no hand. People here, any suggestion, any observation? There is nothing to add. The people on this side, any observation, any comment? There is no hand either. The people on this side, observation, comment, remarks regarding resolution number 4? No hand at all. People on this side, regarding resolution number 4? There seem to be no hand. Will it help if we added promote and strengthen partnership and constructive dialogue between non-states. Partnership in one hand, but constructive dialogue can be added, because that might help a conversation to be meaningful. Partnership by themselves may not be good enough. Will that make anything different? Secretariat, note that observation. In the absence of that, let me move to number 5. Komba, resolution number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 5. The authorities should come up with guidelines on how to enhance value for money. And actually, this comes as a result of an observation which was made during the opening exercise of the forum. The Deputy Minister instructed that we should come up with a resolution to enhance value for money. And so the member states have seen it as necessary to make it as a resolution in this juncture. So this goes to all regulatory authorities, and it has to be reported back to the 13th East African Procurement Forum.
Thank you, Komba. Members, directive from the guest of honor, the opening ceremony, when he challenged the authorities to come out with a specific resolution on how we can enhance value for money. Any comment, observation from this left-hand side? None. Colleagues in the middle. Oh, good. Can you identify the person at the end, far end here? May I? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Gesona Baraka from Tanzania. I was actually looking at the wording of the second column. There is a word challenge. Now, I think that column stands for issues. Now, are we trying to look at value for money as a challenge or an issue? If it's an issue, then the Secretariat should have to look for some proper ways to put it there to look as an issue. That's my comment, please.
Thanks very much for that observation. The Secretariat will take note. Yes, sir. I saw your hand there. Can you move forward and use the mic in front so that you don't have to wait? Get closer to the nearest mic so that we can hear you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure whether guidelines can solve the problem of value for money, because we have laws, regulations that are addressing the value for money. And now we are planning to have guidelines. So I'm not sure whether guidelines, again, can solve the challenge of value for money.
Yes, if guidelines can solve it, what is your suggestion? Make a proposal.
I don't have a proposal, but I was thinking that because we have laws and regulations that they address, because our public procurement acts, they address this challenge. There are issues that are addressing the laws and in the regulations. So, and if it is still a challenge, maybe we have to change maybe something rather than making regulations, just regulations.
Thank you very much. The gentleman in the middle here, can you move closer to the, yes, I noted you. Come closer to the microphone which is vacant so that we can, yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. I have two issues to add on the last, I think the last one, number 5. First of all, the word challenge should be removed to be replaced with the word issues, because if we are going to remain with the challenge, that means the function will be to try to find the solution of challenges. So the word challenges should be removed. Also, the last speaker I don't agree with the last speaker. The guideline is proper function to be done because the current public procurement law and the regulations is not enough for the practitioners like me. Section 3 of the Public Procurement Act number 7, 2011, which has been amended in 2016 through the Public Procurement Amendment Act number 5, is just a definition. Also, Section 4A, sub 3D, just providing the content of the 80 general principle and the standards of procurement and the disposal of public asset by tender, just to require you as a procurement entity to make sure that you obtain the procurement of goods, works, and services at the best value of money in considering three issues: price, quality, and time, considering the specifications and the criteria. So for the practitioner like me, I don't have a mechanism to make sure that during the evaluation, we realize the value for money during the evaluation and not at the end of the procurement, handling, opening, or launching the infrastructure. This will be the very, very important tool like me. Anyway, I'm a head of procurement management unit of the Tanzania Telecommunications Corporation, covered all over the country, Zanzibar and Maryland. Also, the regulation 2 of the public-private partnership regulation of 2015, GN 452, also cannot be used by a practitioner like me. Just generalizing, you must make sure that you achieve value for money in looking to total life and quality. These are words from the lawman, from the legal perspectives. So the guideline, which will be created by our public procurement authorities, will be a tool for me. That's why there are so many tools in the website of the PPRA Tanzania, but nothing you can get the tool for evaluating and making sure that during the evaluation process, you have 100% that this procurement is going to achieve value for money. For you, the USA, they are doing evaluation by using criteria to realize the value for money during the time of evaluation. I was the procurement and the logistics manager under the Tanzania Vector Scale-Up Project, under the National Malaria Control Project, under the Ministry of Health. The project was between the United States of America and Tanzania for 5 years. So there is a special tool provided by the government to use by practitioner. So definition in the law, the highlight in the regulation is not for practitioner. So the guideline is going to be a solution.
Thanks very much for sharing your experience with us. I'll come back to you, Juma. Let me identify the person at the back there. Please. If you can't find the mic, may I request you to move closer to the nearest mic, if the mic is not too closer to you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just a matter of semantic. The value for money has never been a challenge. I think the issue here is either we say realization or achievement of value for money is what has been a challenge. Instead of deleting the word challenge, we say realization of value for money has been a challenge, the way it is. Then on the guidelines, I find it okay if within the guidelines we have strategies, because what is key here are the strategies on how to achieve value for money. And since they will be country specific, I find the wide guidelines okay, provided within the guidelines you have stipulated the strategies to achieve value for money. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that clarification. My colleague here.
Thank you, Chairman. The speaker that has just spoken before me I'll introduce him. He didn't introduce his name. His name is Peter Ndungu. He's from Kenya. Now, on my comments, broadly speaking, is that let's look at procurement as something that is not static, something that is growing. We may have procurement laws within our respective countries, but then, is there room for improvement? Is there room that we can apply to improve the way we are conducting our procurements now? To me, the answer is yes. That is why we need to look at procurement as something that is continuously growing. Issues are emerging every other time. How do we deal with these issues? And we know going the route of amending the law may take longer. As long as you come up with some broad strategies, that can enable countries, that can enable regulatory authorities to guide or be in the front in leading countries to conduct procurements in a modernized way, so that this issue that was raised by the chief guest the other day is addressed. We can't wish it away. We have to deal with it. And what is being presented here is a proposal which we need to improve on it. And one of the approaches is come up with strategies or guidelines that can improve on how we are conducting business now. Let's not just leave it that we are content with the way the procurement law is. And I believe that within our respective countries, there is a provision that empowers either the regulatory authorities or the minister in charge to issue, instruments that can guide entities to better apply the procurement law, or in this case, value for money. How do we do this? You can review your standard bidding documents, for example, to accommodate the emerging issues, and thereby probably realize value for money. Thank you.
Very much for that clarification. The gist of that argument is that let's agree that there is room to improve public procurement for purposes of enhancing value for money. So whether the guidelines help to clarify, or the guidelines and the strategies help the authorities to clarify and amplify on or elaborate the principle of value for money, that will be an improvement, and that will go a long way to address the observation made by the guest of honor. So let me suggest to the Secretariat to look at it this way. If you draft this resolution, come up with guidelines and strategies to improve and enhance the principle of value for money. Elaborate it that way by way of increasing clarity in the value for money. With that, Secretariat, look at it that way and see how it can capture the broad concern in the resolution. Okay, anybody else? Yes. Can you come front? There is a mic in front. Don't wait for the mic that might. Yes, come closer to the mics in front of you.
My name is Nuruddin Tebusweke from Uganda. Yesterday we had a presentation to do with the enhancing integrity and accountability. And there was a proposal somewhere in a presentation to have procurement practitioners being held accountable of their actions by having appropriate sanctions. Now I would think that if you are to enhance value for money, for instance, we should as well have some sanctions in respect of violation of value for money, or as a way of enhancing value for money by having sanctions in case of violation, something to do with that. So the sanction bit is missing in that element.
Thanks very much. It is either an elaboration of resolution number 5, or it is a new proposal regarding integrity and accountability by way of sanctioning against the professionals. We have noted that. Secretariat, note that. You can either elaborate on recommendation number 5, or there might be a suggestion of adding a new recommendation regarding professionalism. See how you can deal with that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just maybe close to what my colleague has said from Uganda, I'm just disappointed that we have not touched on the issue of human resources. My name is Godfrey Matovu, I'm from Uganda. The issue of human resource in procurement. And where I'm coming from is the issue of professionalism, whereby we noted yesterday that there are new trends in procurement which are coming up, especially on the use EGP, electronic procurement, where we need professionals or the human resource people in procurement to be up to the task on handling those tasks. Secondly, also on professionalism, we need to enhance ethical conduct, as maybe related to what was said. So my proposal, Mr. Chairman, is that member states ensure that their professionals are well skilled, regulated, to ensure that when they are conducting their business in procurement, they're actually adding on value. And also proposing that in future forums like this, at every level, we talk about human resource in procurement. If we don't, and as people are saying, because procurement is dynamic, it's moving on, you are going to have a profession moving on, and the people who are working in it left behind, then you are going to have a gap which is not going to promote procurement as a profession. So we need at every level to see, are we moving with the people who are supposed to work in the profession, well skilled to handle the tasks ahead? I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much. I hear two things from what you are saying. You are saying we can either amplify the integrity and accountability resolution, or add a separate resolution regarding capacity building and improvement of the skills of the procurement professionals. Secretariat, have you noted that? There are two ways of doing it. If you want to amplify value for money, you will be missing out on professionalism. Maybe it is better to have a separate resolution dealing with capacity building and the strengthening of the public procurement profession, because value for money in itself will not be enough to capture the issues arising from professional skills and development in line with the changing procurement trends. Komba, have you noted that? There are two possibilities there. I suggest that value for money be left as a separate resolution, but a separate resolution on capacity building and human resource development, skills development, and the sanctioning of errant professionals in line with the basic pillars of professionalism. If you can add that as a separate resolution, it will help. It will be easy to handle, it will be easy to report on, it will be easy to address. That will be a set. That has taken us to, from 5 resolutions, now we have 6. Members of the Secretariat, are you helping to draft that so that by the time we come back, Komba will have a properly drafted resolution number 6? Thanks very much, guys, for adding a resolution. Is there anything else that you think has not been captured by the Secretariat that might be useful to add on our list of resolutions? We already have 6 resolutions after the addition of question of professionalism and human capacity development. Anybody else who thinks there is something that captured. Let me start from here. Yes, sir, at the back. Noted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Eric Korir from Kenya. And one of the very interesting presentations we had yesterday was various entities or governments supporting the SMEs and the disadvantaged groups in order to spur and unlock economic growth and development towards alleviating poverty and unemployment. I thought that was a very important topic, and I think it should be one of the issues that this plenary can consider making a resolution on that basis.
What kind of resolution are you making, if I may ask? Help.
Chairman, it is on the basis of that issue of supporting disadvantaged groups and the SMEs to unlock and spur economic growth. I guess from there we can, the Secretariat can come up with a resolution. Such a resolution, for example, is that member states or the authorities to pursue various strategies to support the disadvantaged and the SMEs.
Very much. Sounds like a very powerful suggestion. Raise it as public procurement. I'm trying to be helpful to the Secretariat by imagining a draft like taking into considerations that public procurement has broader value and broader coverage. It is important that special groups and SMEs be supported. So a resolution would be develop guidelines, develop strategies of ensuring that these groups are not left behind for purposes of enhancing the broader economic considerations. Secretariat, who's taking that? Komba, you have people around you who is helping. We have an extra resolution regarding, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the first discussion of this forum was to what extent have we implemented the previous forum resolutions. And from the discussion, it came out clearly that we should put down what we can chew. So we can't do everything at a go. We must look, we are looking at the time frame, and from his submission, he was saying the next forum. The next forum is hardly a year. It's next year. So I want us to be mindful about the magnitude of the resolution that we are not going to come up with. I propose that if we are satisfied with what has been submitted, we embrace it and move on. Otherwise, we are going to have a list of so many resolutions, and when we come, the criticism is, why didn't you put down what you can manage? My submissions.
Thanks very much. Mindful of previous experiences, the Secretariat had come up with 5. Now we are increasing the list to 7. The colleague from Uganda is saying, is it manageable? And if not, why don't we stick to the 5? Miss out on some, the question is, what are our priorities? Any suggestion? Yes, sir.
Chair, I agree with the suggestion, but it is also the opinion that this proposal given about the disadvantaged groups, whatever, can be taken care by resolution number 1. Resolution number 1 is talking about the local content, and through it you can amplify to capture that as well.
Very much. Madam.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to concur with what the former speaker has said, that resolution number 1 can, in the phraseology, probably include words like special interest groups or inclusivity, so that it addresses that.
Secretariat, you have even been given the right words. For purposes of inclusivity in local content, SMEs and special groups can be covered in Resolution 1. So we are back to 6 resolutions. I still believe that the question of human resource capacity development and professionalism are integral parts to value for money, that either we include it as part of value for money or we list it separately. Because of its significance. We will have 6 resolutions rather than 5. Gentlemen and the Secretariat, do you think 6 are manageable or do you think we stick to 5? 6 are manageable, I am told. Okay? So, yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Wangala Moses, Uganda. As we discuss the issue of coming up with how many resolutions we need, and considering that we gave a task to ourselves in last year to evaluate what we had put for the last 10 years, maybe we needed to also remind ourselves whether what we are coming with now possibly is not a duplication of one of those that we discussed in the last 10 years that was not concluded. That's my imagination. Let me also use the same opportunity to make a comment about number 5. Chair, while you were trying to make comments about changing the remarks, you reserved certain words like possibly tightening. Members were talking about guidelines and all that. Every profession in procurement, whenever they are doing their work, including myself, it's like a trained soldier looking at anybody as an enemy until you are sure he is not. So the word value for money is an inbuilt something in a procurement profession, if I am right. So everything you are doing in the process, you are targeting at value for money of some sort. So therefore, in one way, whether you have guidelines in your state or not, there are something you're doing. In my personal view, I would only say, whether some countries have guidelines or they don't have, there is something there they are working on. I would propose that instead of saying introduce guidelines, possibly we would say strengthen or tighten whatever is existing so that we achieve, using other strategy to achieve whatever is there, or achieve what we have always been fighting to achieve. Thank you, Chair.
Interesting observation. 2 things emerge from your contribution. Let's look at the recommendation and the resolutions for the past 10 years and avoid duplication. If any of these resolution was covered in previous years, then it should not necessarily be on the list. That is the first one. The second one is regarding resolution 5. Value for money is one of the principles or pillars of public procurement. That's what you are saying. Now, the question is, how do you clarify the existing? How do you amplify? How do you make sure that this gets the priority it deserves? So the Secretariat can find ways of drafting it in such a way that it is either strengthening or it is clarifying or it is improving on the principle of value for money, which is already incorporated in our rules, in our laws and existing regulations. I think that's the message I get, which is a challenge to the Secretariat to draft it in a way that captures that central gist that the gentleman has observed. Thanks very much for that. Anything else? I am tempted to think that we are becoming exhaustive if we take cognizance of the fact that we avoid being repetitive of the resolutions that were taken in the past. We stick now, we have 6 resolutions. I think the Secretariat, may I, if there is no other contribution. May I ask you to give a hand of applause to the Secretariat, specifically to Castor Komba, who presented the resolution. May I now suggest that we are now waiting for the guest of honor. After the resolution, the next item is closing ceremony. And the closing ceremony takes place when the guest of honor arrives. May I, did I see the, yes. May I suggest that you make your observations before we choose what to do.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you all, and congratulations for having completed this session and have come up with the 6th resolution, which I believe are realistic and implementable, because that has been an observation from some of the participants that those which are formulated should be realistic and implementable. Mr. Chairman, before you leave your chair, I would really give a chance. As we are waiting for the guest of honor, could we use this chance to have a general plenary discussion on any of the issues which have been covered over the last 2.5 days? I know some of you have slept on certain ideas, issues, and thought of them overnight, and maybe you thought you would not have a chance again to speak, but now there is this chance. And what we'll do is, if somebody raises an issue, wants clarification, or certain, proposing something, we'll get somebody to respond among the participants, because I think most of the presenters are around, except maybe the World Bank and the ADB guy who left. So can I suggest that we do that, and if acceptance, if nobody is objecting, I take it that it has been accepted. And please, Mr. Chairman, you can also provoke issues which you think need to be discussed further, and let the participants talk. You are very experienced in the procurement arena, and so, Mr. Chairman, please kindly proceed. Asante.
Okay, this is a general plenary, filling in the time. Speakers who had pressing issues, they didn't have the opportunity to raise them. At the end of which, all the forum takes place every year. Let's start thinking of what ideas might be pending and which ideas might be of relevant for the next forum next year. Pressing issues. Let me identify the hands. Gentlemen here, start, and somebody here will be the second. Move closer to the mic and let's hear your voice.
Thank you, Chair. Moses, again, my name, from Uganda. First goes to the sponsors. I don't know whether they are still in the room. First request is that some of them provide services that we're interested, possibly like shipping. We are practitioners, we need that service. I would first say, how do we get their contacts, if any? That's my first request. The shipping, there was some about work managed compensation, something of that sort. Is something possibly, some of us, we don't have it like in Uganda. Is something we would want to consult and see how we can possibly share with our people back in the country. But that aside, I have clarification for the two, especially the person who said Tanzanian Communication Regulatory Authority. Yes, my first question is, in the era of social media, And given the example we had in Maghreb, that is Tunisia, you all know what happened there. And considering the ethical standards that we all want to promote, would this authority be tempted, like we have seen other states in the East African community, switch off the WhatsApp or the phone's communication just in the interest of seeing that there is no social unrest? Has this ever happened? And if so, what laws would they be breaking? For the case of workmanship compensation, I want to just ask a question. They said that once you have a problem, you register, you do everything. And if you have you can go to the nearest hospital and something of the sort. Two questions. How do they manage issues of fraud? If it's just online, and I just go to any hospital, and I need a treatment, maybe would they wish to share an experience of how do they manage that process of me going there, get treatment, whatever? How do they manage cost control? How big or how small? They said private is 1% and the government is 5%. 0.5, sorry. Is it, do you go to this hospital from January to December? Should this hospital send you to South Africa, like we have seen in East Africa, going South Africa to India and everywhere whenever I have a problem? So what is the limit? Thank you.
Very much. And in case those people have left, we will find somebody to respond. There was a person's hand here. Here. Yes. Can you get closer to the mic? I noted you. I'll give you a next chance. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. My name is Mkasiris Banda from Zimbabwe. My interest is on value for money insofar as the procurement of the electronic system of the public procurement. I know we've been exposed to TANEP. I know Kenya is doing that, Uganda and Rwanda. To what extent have you also utilized bulk procurement, trying to learn lessons to reduce the cost and other hiccups that can come? Because we can talk about a regional approach, but the frameworks in terms of what the systems that we are using or the applications are quite different.
Thanks very much, Sebanda. Can you switch off the mic before you leave? There was a hand here. Madam, on this side. Where are you? There was, yes, please, madam. Yeah, come closer to the mic if you can't find one. If there are mics in front, don't wait for one, you might not find it.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, mine is on value for money. I'm Meke Jane Margaret from Uganda. I'm a practitioner for more than 20 years now. I feel we leave out a very critical group of people who play a very big role in the procurement cycle. Those are the technical people, or sometimes referred to as the users. In the years I have served in the procurement profession, I find them one of the critical groups that interfere with value for money. And they are not usually addressed. We come for conferences, we have meetings, but they never attend these meetings. And yet they play a big role. They are responsible for the budget, responsible for the planning, evaluation, contract management, and the designs, name it. And they can engineer any problem into the process at any of those points. I feel that we have left them out long enough, and we need to bring them on board because they are very key. That's food for thought.
Very much, Margaret. What you are saying is something that probably Sheila attempted to deal with yesterday when he was talking of capacity building for purposes of TANEPs. That it's not good enough to train the PMUs without training others who use the system, because if you leave them behind, they will either create problems, or if you train ICT people, they help resolve some of the problems at an institutional level. So what Margaret is saying, what are the consequences of user departments being left behind when in actual fact they might be the actual causes, or they contribute to the problem of lack of value for money. Interesting observation. CEOs take note of that. Authorities take note of that. The country member state will be hosting the next forum. Find a way in which you can address user departments as being part and parcel of what we are trying to talk about. Noted. There was a hand here. Yes, sir.
Chairman, I want to comment on Margaret's concern. And it's true, they may not be represented in this. But as countries like Uganda, we also have what you call procurement performance reviews in our respective countries. But the challenge, when even you send an invitation to the accounting officer, they usually think these regulators are working with the procurement units. So they tend to send always people who work in procurement units rather than also looking at all the other stakeholders in procurement. Because these users, I agree with her, they are very, very important because they are involved in the specifications, they are involved in all those statement of requirements and really and implementation, contract management. Now, what I want to call upon the procurement managers and cadres who are here is really to go and then send the message to their institutions, to their procuring entities, that wherever we call for such meetings, even in our countries, then the users should also participate, come and participate. They shouldn't look at procurement as only for procurement professionals. That is my comment, Mr. Chairman.
Is that accounting officers should be looking at public procurement in its broad terms and therefore select other departments relevant so that they are equally capacitated in terms of knowledge. You would remember that Dr. Shirima in his presentation yesterday gave the example of, was it Indonesia, I think, which had developed databases for purposes of specification. That is one attempt to indicate how broad public procurement is beyond public procurement professionals. Thanks for that remark. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Get closer to the mic.
Nurudin Tebusweke from Uganda. Chair, I request to get some clarification on there are two issues. One, when we are promoting like a special group, and then when you are looking at local content, should we promote the two in isolation or one as a component of the other? I see clarification on that. Then two, we have always talked about integrity, accountability, and ethics. If you have to look at those words, they have to do with the professionalism. And you look what regulators, the authorities, they seem to be inclined on regulating processes and advising. Now, how about the practitioners? To what extent their professional affiliation is regulating them. A case in point, you need to look at accountants, much as you can have other societies, but they have a kind of professional affiliation which can enhance professionalism and can regulate those people appropriately. Those are the two things I wanted to put forward for clarification.
Thanks very much, Nurdin. Let's start from here again. Yes, sir. Get closer to the mic. You did it last time. Make it easy for yourself.
Thank you, Chairperson. I have, my name is Madata. By Tanzania procurement law, I'm head of procurement management unit of the Tanzania Telecommunications Corporation. I have a professional advice to one of the presenter. If I'm allowed, I want to furnish my professional advice as a professional in procurement and not the head of PMU of the employer. So if you allow me, I have a professional advice to the GIPSA. May I issue my professional advice?
Use the networking opportunity to talk to GIPSA rather, unless you think it will be of broader significance and relevance to the group.
That's why I want to issue here at a gathering, because there are so many head PMUs. The issue is the same.
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to advise the GIPSA to make sure that the prices of the clearing and the services are available to the PEs. Availability of the prices of the clearing and the services are provided by GIPSA according to Regulation 130, sub 5 of regulation, public regulations of procurement of 2013 GN 446, which has been amended, is requiring procurement entity to use clearing and the services from GIPSA whereby the price is lower than the market price. Market price are available. The issue is the price of GIPSA, so as to compare before deciding to use the GIPSA services, because the CAG and the PPRA during the auditing, they are using a legal framework. I mean sections in the public procurement law, the regulations in the public procurement regulations with its amendment, a guideline or circular. So I would like to advise the GIPSA, in order for me as a head of PMU to use their service to make sure that I comply with the 130 sub 5 regulation, the price of clearing and the forwarding services to be available, so as to make a comparison with the market prices. Otherwise, it will be too complicated, and GIPSA will miss the service from my procurement entity. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Is the person from GIPSA available? A representative of GIPSA? He was here during the sponsors GIPSA person. Are you the GIPSA person? If the GIPSA person is here, can you, where are you? Oh, you are from GIPSA? Yes, can you address that advice from Madata?
Yes, thank you for your advice. Actually, according to the Public Procurement Act, and especially with amendment of 2016, every procuring entity is required to use the services, the clearing and forwarding services from GIPSA. And according to the amendment of 2006, actually the word which was allowing the procuring entities to purchase from GIPSA when the price, to purchase from other institutions when the price of gypsum is higher, is now is not there, and therefore every procuring entity is required to purchase or to use the services from gypsum.
I think you didn't understand his concern. He's simply saying he's aware of requirement to use gypsum. What he's saying is, can you make the prices available to PEs so that the PEs are able to compare the prices with somebody else? So he's asking that prices be made available for comparison purposes. He doesn't doubt his requirement to be use gypsum services. He's only requesting for availability of prices.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Therefore, okay, thank you. I'm taking the advice on board. Thank you.
Workers' Compensation Fund. Can you, Workers' Compensation Fund, where are you? Yes, sir. Can you, from where you are, address 2 items from a person from Uganda regarding issues of concerning fraud, price, cost control. The gentleman from this side asked those questions. Can you address those in a minute, if possible?
Thank you. In case of fraud, let me maybe I can say, let me take you through how are we organized. We
not have that enough time.
Okay, we have a team of experts, doctors, who go through the submitted claims, they carry out assessment to make sure that the prices, like the medical aid, the services provided, the tablets prescribed, are in line with the actual injury or service which was provided. We have systems in place and people who do education, just to make sure that the reported accident is real occupational. Depending on the severity of the injury, then some people might visit the accident area just to be, to get evidence. And also, you should also indicate who were the people around when accident occurred. So such people will be interviewed, and the employer should write a report of the occupational accident indicating precisely what happened. In that case, the fraud is minimized. By the way, you also compensate people when they're going to office or coming back from the office, or when they are traveling, like currently if it's an official trip, a conveyance, we get an accident that will be compensated. In that case, we involve police. We need all the evidence from police if we report such an accident. Thank you, Chairperson.
Cost control.
Okay, cost control, okay, that's within, like, if we eliminate frauds and only make sure that the right compensation, the right claims are paid, more than 40% of cost is dealt with. That's the, how can I say, it's experience, is the, all the information available has indicated that. If you manage fraud, you reduce your costs by 40%. Now, on the other side, this is a social security fund. Social security fund is guided by some regulations. Initially, we were under SSRI, but currently it's under the Ministry of Labor, and we are not supposed or allowed to spend more than 15% of total collection. So we manage our costs efficiently. As you can see, we've introduced online services. In that case, we live within the legislated cost limit. Thank you.
Thanks very much. This is from TASAC or TCRA. Yes, sir. TASAC. You don't understand the question.
Much as they can be regulated, but they have their affiliated profession, which is guiding them and like following, like doing a lot to ensure that they are upright and they are acting professionally in their day-to-day work. So now it's like, what effort the regulators have put in place to enhance procurement practitioners to be regulated by their affiliated professionals.
Okay. And I think by your question, you want to to learn back from Burundi again. Well, I said it yesterday, and I would like to expound it more, that the issue of integrity, professionalism, good governance, and so on, those are all of them are the components of good governance. They are ingredients of good governance. Now, the rules and regulations put in place for the case of my country are in some aspects prohibitive. And in other aspects, they are deterrent. And so to say, you understand that the laws which are used in Burundi in that arena of public procurement are used as watchdogs to what is happening in that field, to the conduct of the practitioners or partners in that field. So, if, for example, there is fraud detected in the process, in the course of execution of public procurement contracts, the concerned actors, knowing that there is a court of law which is going to convict some of the offenses relating with public procurement as provided for in Burundian legislation, then you understand that the court, the presence of the court itself, is a factor which will orient the conduct or the behavior of the partners in that field or the intervening actors in that field. Because if there is nothing to fear in whatever thing you are doing, then I think it is quite difficult to observe those ingredients of good governance, knowing that even if you go against, there is no outcome. But if you know that there is an outcome, you are responsible for whatever action you are going to undertake in your field. Be you an accountant or a public procurement authority, a contracting authority, or any other person intervening in that field, they know that there are laws, rules, and regulations which have been set forth to regulate the process involved in public procurement. So I think by that you understand that the deterrence force of that, the laws existing is itself sufficient to control the behavior of people and their conducts in that field. I hope I have satisfied your query.
You have tried your best. You have tried your best. Thank you. Nurdin, I have found Juma to reply to the, I found Juma actually, it was very difficult to find. He has taken, yes please, go ahead. Now I have found the CEO of Kenya. Nurdin was saying, can you handle local content separate from spatial groups, or one is a subset of the other, or can you, is there a way in which you can look at them together? Nurdin, am I summarizing your sentence? CEO of Kenya will answer that. The other CEOs must be ready to complement his reply.
Yes. Before I answer the question, I'll give a little bit of history between Kenya and Uganda on this issue of preference and reservation. they have been very keenly following how Kenya is implementing both the 40% local content and the 30% preference and reservation scheme for youth, women, and persons with disability. We handle them separately. And why we handle them separately is, if you look at the 40% local content, is that in the Kenyan context, it's applicable in international tendering. Where you have an international tenderer who has developed some interest in a tender that has been advertised, then they'll have to demonstrate how they are going to apply the 40% local content. And I'll give an example, because some of these explanations, they come, they can be well understood if you give examples. For example, the standard gauge railway from Mombasa to Nairobi, and then Nairobi to Naivasha. And it is expected that the same standard gauge railway will go all the way to Malaba. Malaba is a border town between, on the Kenya and Ugandan border. Now, what goes into the construction of the railway line, other than the steel sleepers or the railway sleepers? We have got concrete, we have got sand, and we have ballast. Now, out of this, in my understanding how it was done, is that those materials that I've mentioned, because standard gauge is being done by a Chinese firm, those materials that I have mentioned are available locally. So the contractor was compelled to source those materials from local suppliers, which they did so that they fulfill that 40%. Now, on 30% preference and reservation scheme, which is specifically designed for youth, women, and persons with disability, is totally different from the 40% local content. Even by just a layman's language, is that in your procurement plan, as a public entity, you must reserve 30% of your procurement spend to youth, women, and persons with disability. So you must show that, which are these items that you've set aside for these disadvantaged groups. And then, as a regulator, we have also to monitor that you comply with that aspect by submitting your procurement plan demonstrating how you've set aside the 30%. And then quarterly, that is periodically, you have also now to submit to us the actual, what have you procured, so that you demonstrate that you have actually spent the 30% as in accordance with the procurement plan that you had initially submitted. It's a mandatory requirement, it's a legal requirement that you must submit that information. So the two are separate, and I have demonstrated why they are separate, unless it's not clear.
It is very clear.
So if it's not clear,
It is very clear.
you don't need to seek clarification. Come to me, the person who asked that. I'll expound on it. My Kenyan colleagues are also here. They can still supplement what I've explained. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can I request, I think, Nurdin, you get the message. There are some interrelationships, but they are separate for purposes of legal provisions. They are all intended to make sure that in the procurement, these things that can be found internally for purposes of local content, activities performed by special groups are all enhancing local economy, although they are separate in provisions, they are separate in requirement, but they are related in terms of their end results. That's my understanding. CEOs, anyone else from Rwanda? You want to chip in on local content and special groups from the Rwandan perspective? Juma, where have you gone? There will be another question for you.
Okay.
So don't go very far from me.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to compliment the explanations given by the CEO of Burundi on self-regulation among professionals. I want to assume that the speaker referred to self-regulation in all the countries, not necessarily in Burundi. And professionalization of public procurement, and which comes with self-regulation, is one of the components of the, I think, the second pillar of methodology for assessing public procurement systems, whereby one of the important requirements is to put in place a framework for professionalization of public procurement. And this methodology has been the one that has guided the reforms, the public procurement reforms in all our EAC member states. And in the previous forums, there could have been more than one resolution about professionalization of public procurement. And the regulatory authorities have been conscious of this and have been developing professionalization of public procurement, and it is at different stages. And where professionalization of public procurement is advanced, that element of self-regulation exists. So in Kenya and Tanzania, as we learned from yesterday's presentation, they already have laws regulating those professions, and the professions and the professional organization in those countries are established by law, and self-regulation, you can say, is advanced. In Uganda, the professional body exists, and I think there is some kind of self-regulation, but they are still working on the legal framework. So in Rwanda, the legal framework has been completed. Actually, I think it was enacted. The act was enacted in 2016, and we are in the early stages of establishing the professional body. It has been established, it has membership, but we can say we are not yet at the desired stage where self-regulation is advanced as it could be in the case of Kenya and Tanzania. I wanted to compliment the speaker from Burundi. Thank you.
Interesting. For that clarification. CEO from Uganda, you want to chip in any of those issues that might be of interest from the Ugandan perspective?
Thank you, Chair. On the local content, the Ugandan law provides for reservation and preference schemes. And on preference schemes, as I think the practice, it is applied at financial evaluation. And the law, the act itself, stipulated a percentage. And this is applied also when a local company is competing with an international company. And for works, the preference percentage is 7%. So a Ugandan company is given a preference of 7% for works procurements at financial evaluation. What does that mean? It means that as a country we can afford to pay 7% more if the contract is awarded to a local company. Let me demonstrate. If, for example, a Chinese firm has been evaluated at $100 million, and the Ugandan farm is at $107 million. Then the best evaluated bidder will be Ugandan farm at 107, because we can afford to add 7%. But if a Ugandan farm was 108, then the award will go to the Chinese farm at 100 million. That is the preference in terms of evaluation at financial. Then if it is works, I mean the supplies and these are goods and services, the preference is 15%. For JV, there is also preference. If you go in a joint venture with a Ghanaian company, then you get preference of 4%. And those percentages are stipulated in the Act. But following the provision in the Act that allows reservation, the authority, the PPDA, issued a guideline in 2017, revised in 2018, to provide for thresholds that benefit local companies. And for roadworks, the threshold is around 12 million US dollars. If you are procuring, and it is procuring roadworks within 12 million US dollars, then the competition must be only to local providers. And in our case, there was, why we revised actually this, in 2017, we had issued a guideline to benefit only Ugandans. But then there was a lot of complaints. They even reached the president, especially those companies that are registered in Uganda but are not owned by Ugandans. The Indian companies, the Tanzanian companies, the Kenyan companies, they are registered and incorporated in Uganda. So they are called resident companies. They are not national companies. So we revised it in 2018 to provide for both resident and national companies to benefit from these thresholds. $12 million for roadworks, $3 million for other works like construction, buildings and bridges and, buildings and waterworks. Then for goods, it's one billion, which is about $300,000 for goods and supplies, and for supplies. So the competition within that threshold must be amongst resident and national providers. Mr. Chair, I think that is what we have. Unfortunately, we haven't regulated for the SMEs and the disadvantaged groups. However, we are following our brothers in Kenya. We have currently a bill in Parliament amending the PPD Act, and the proposal is also to take care of the SMEs and people with the disadvantaged groups. What is still a challenge is, I think what we talked about, the harmonization is still lacking. Because as much as I talked about a resident provider, this Kenyan farm must be a resident in Uganda, registered and incorporated in Uganda to benefit from those reservations. But if it's a farm registered in Kenya and incorporated in Kenya, they won't benefit from those provisions. And that's what Kenya is doing, that's what Rwanda is doing, that's what Tanzania is doing, which I think we need to debate and agree that we need to harmonize these legal frameworks. Thank you.
May I take this opportunity to ask our colleague from Egypt to say a word or two about local content regarding the Julius Nyerere hydro. As you speak, I will ask Mr. Bilabaye, who spoke about professionalism yesterday, to get ready if he's around, because there will be one or two things you would probably clarify. Gentlemen from here, from Arab Contractors, what is the name of the other JV partner, please?
Okay, actually the JV is between Arab Contractors for civil construction, for civil works, and we are El Swedi Electric for the electromechanical works. Okay. Regarding the local contents, I have mentioned already in the presentation that we, up to now, we have on site 2,000 employees. More than 90% of them are local, are Tanzanian. And we are targeting to have up to 6,000 employees working on site. And actually we are going to have a kind of small city on site. We have a huge camp up to now to occupy the 2,000 people working there. But we are working to have like a small city, to have the 6,000, because the project is quite long. We are talking about 3 years, actually 3.5 years. And within this city, by the way, we will have a complete hospital and all kind of required accommodation for the people working on site. And we confirm that more than 90% will be, or actually are Tanzanian working on site. Thank you very much.
That's a very good clarification. The question from the gentleman here is, can you address the material side, acquisition of materials used for construction? How much is from where, how much is from Tanzania?
Okay. Regarding civil works, for the cement and steel, it's all from Egypt. It's all from Tanzania. As for the turbines, for sure they are coming from abroad. But let's say that the civil works in such kind of projects contains a lot of civil works. The civil works, I mean, it's a huge bulk of the total project. So it's roughly like 40% and even more of the total projects, of the total cost of the project, which is 2.9 billion USD. Those we are sourcing from Tanzania. So we are more than 40% local content. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bilabaye, if you are somewhere, you are. If you can address some issues on professionalism that were raised from the floor in the broader panel. You don't have a specific, but if there are things that you'd like to clarify, please do. You did the presentation yesterday. I thought I should give you a chance, because professionalism and questions of, in actual fact, the guest of honor was very clear in her presentation. She said, are you suggesting that the use of technology will address some of the issues that are the deficits in professionalism? To what extent is professionalism and use of technology complementary or helping to deal with the issues of project time escalation and cost increase? She was very specific on that. Can you say something about that? After Bilabaye, I would be tempted to bring this to an end so that people can stretch their legs waiting for the guest of honor. Bilabaye would be the last, please.
Thanks, Chair. There are a number of issues. First is to at least share the success of Tanzania in the procurement and supply professionalization. as in Tanzania, we had a professional board since 1981. So we have a couple of years regulating the conduct of procurement and supply professionals. Above all, we have assisted a number of countries to set up their professional bodies. I understand Kenya were among them. And recently we have assisted Liberia to set the same. And that means for those member states who are still at the infant stage, we are there to assist each other. We can offer that assistance. But what we are doing basically is, as a professional board, is first to regulate the conduct of professionals. See to it all systems that were discussed since yesterday are dealing with the processes. But these processes, so that be effectively, there is a human element that are coming in. But we are dealing with a very volatile human being who comes from different culture, different perspective, and therefore shaping them to behave in a certain way. We need to have a code of conduct that is highly appreciated by all registered professionals. So in Tanzania, apart from the law, apart from the regulation, we equally have a code of conduct. And through code of conduct, that's where you find a number of do and don'ts that compels professionals to behave in a way that will ensure employers get the best value for money once they offer their services. However, we equally appreciate the dynamism in processes development have a far-reach impact on the competence of professionals. So again, as a professional board, we have a duty bound to ensure that we develop professionals. That means we have two lines of competence development. The first one is attainment of the highest professional qualification, that is certified procurement and supplies professional certificate. A university graduate with procurement and supply or procurement and logistic, call it whatever, have to sit for almost 8 papers, 8 professional papers, plus doing a research so that to be certified as a professional over and above his or her university degree. If you are coming from other professionals other than procurement and supply, then through benchmarking process, you are going to start a bit lower, so you'll have to sit for more papers, but with the maximum exemption, appreciating what you have gone through in your career. So that's how we are doing that. And the second part of competence development is we appreciate the professional is dynamic. So after attainment of your professional career, then you have to go through professional development through programs that are dedicated to ensure that you become competent at any time. Now this again is measured either through training program like this, then a profession might be assigned specific professional development hours, but also through either doing research or if not doing research, supervising students who are doing research. That's another alternative. But equally, making presentation in forums, again, you have some hours that can be awarded to appreciate that you have did something in your professional competence development. And as a professional board, again, we have now an avenue to advise the government and the other key players within the sector. Through that, as a professional board, of course, we are compelled to do some researches so that you can attend that. But there are some areas where you need not research, but it's your professionalism that is required. For instance, a recruitment bureau in Tanzania, when it comes to recruitment of professionals, they highly value the contribution of our professional board. So in most of the procurement and supply recruitment, you'll find the board will be invited at some stages to ensure that issues related to professionalism are observed. But individual institutions equally do approach us for the same once it comes to professionalism development. And for the sake of Tanzania, we are working together with the other regulatory bodies. That means PPRA, PPAA, CAG, because through their work is where we equally get feedback on how our professionals are doing, failing in that process. We equally have a very close link with the TCU, Tanzania Commission for Universities, and NACTE, where before any higher learning institution develop a curriculum for procurement and supply, there must be a professional body's opinion on the validity and the competence expected out of that particular program. So this is how we are sharing within the existing framework within Tanzania. Now, the coming of technology with professionals, this will bring us to a question of the third industrial revolution, where the introduction. Exactly. Yeah. That means I expect to have, the coming of technology to enhance credibility of professionals. Why am I thinking so? Because as I demonstrated yesterday, the bigger part of complaints we were receiving as a professional board was caused by human interface, because procurement processes using manual system, there are a number of processes where bidders were compelled to meet with our professionals. With technology, that means we are no longer going to meet with the bidders that much directly as it was before. And the source of these allegations were not much proved. Therefore, with the system, we expect this sort of complaint to be down now. And that means trust to our professionals will be enhanced through technology. However, as I said yesterday, professionals has to choose to be dynamic as the processes are dynamic, or to be static so that they can perish. So I see more opportunities by virtue of technology than threats. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We have been going on for the past 2 hours. May I request that we take a break waiting for the guest of honor. I return the mic to the Master of Ceremony. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we please give a big hand of applause to the chairman for having taken all this endurance to make us active and participate in these last 2 hours. Asante sana, Karim. Well, there are a few things here. By the way, there's this leaflet which shows how you can get to the link to the area where the presentations have been uploaded. Have you got it? Have everybody of you got it? It was on the table there. Some people missing? Okay, can you please assist in getting this? This one shows how you can get to the link, to the location where you can download these presentations. It's very unfortunate that the promise we gave that we'll be giving you the flash disk with the presentation has not worked. And we will all have to get them through from the website of PPRA. Yes. Another thing is that I have a phone here which was, I'm sure somebody left it with, is that yours? Excuse me? Is it? They want these papers. I'm always losing phones on such forums, but this time I've been picking, seeing many phones left. So I have a phone here for anybody who might have left it somewhere by mistake. You know, in this, can we please all stand up? Let's stand up. When I'm talking of what I'm trying to tell you, let us all stand up, stretch ourselves, and you know, look on the left, right, and in the world we are told of the 100% of the issues which we manage, we handle, 10% are, the only 10% are beyond our control. 90% are under our control, and you can control them, you know, properly. So one of the among the 10% maybe is one of waiting for the guest of honor. Yeah? So please bear with us because that is actually, it has been an issue which has dragged us even to go this far. Some news? So please accept that apology. The delay is because of reasons beyond our control. Hello? Aliyekupa hii mwambiaje? You know, there was this story about what we can control. Just keep standing and stretching as I'm talking here, because we need that. A man was sitting with his wife and a daughter on a table, drinking tea in the morning, breakfast in the morning before they kick off to work. And unfortunately, the daughter kicked by mistake her cup of tea, which was beside her, and that tea split, you know, spilled over the shirt of the father. The father became very furious, shouting and abusing and talking always, and even to the wife saying, "Why did you put this cup so near to this lady?" And it took a while when they were arguing, and then he remembered that he has to go to work. The papers we have been distributing actually are reflecting the presentation you see on the PowerPoints at the moment. So you have the copies, the hard copies. So, you know, this father then ran to his room and changed, you know, his shirt and that, but that was late. And the daughter was crying, you know, furiously, even delayed to get her school bus. And the man also went out, delayed, you know, on a day. He drove on a road which was an 80 kilometers per hour speed limit, but he was 100. So he was fined. He reached his office late. You know, but all that could not have happened if, when he saw when he had this tea spill on him, he would just say, "Oh, sorry, my daughter. No, that's not. Take it easy. I'll just go and change the shade." He would have done that, and everything would have been quiet. So it's about controlling and what you can manage and what you cannot manage. Okay, then what we'll do now actually is, as we are waiting to receive the guest of honor, we'll do the formality of getting to know who will be the next host of this forum for next year. So we can now sit at your convenience. Whoever is ready to sit can sit as we get organized to do that activity. Can I please invite the chairperson of the PPRA Tanzania to come here. Can I invite the Chief Executive PPRA Tanzania to also join here? The Commissioner, PPD, the Commissioner, he's not here? Okay. Mr. Juma from Kenya, PPRA, who had been our immediate past hosts for this event. Can you please come in the front, please? So, Mr. Dr. Ambassador Lumbanga, our chairman of the board of directors for the Tanzania PPRA. We are now having the event of.
So, by that, I want to inform you that Rwanda cannot disappoint members of the East African Public Procurement Forum that has, through Juma, put this trust into us. So before I continue, let me say that we humbly accept this responsibility to host the next East African Procurement Forum. The next thing, although you have uploaded, I want to still seek your support. Although this forum is organized by one country, one public procurement oversight authority, but its success depends largely on the collaboration, on the support it receives from other partner states. So I'm seeking your support, not only from the CEOs, but from all the participants who are here, and even those who may not be here. Mr. Juma has said that we have continued to improve the performance of the forums, and we have in Rwanda have been lucky to attend most of the forums, and every time we attend, we are learning on how the forums have been organized, on the reasons behind the successes and the good performance of the forums. So we hope we are going to be able to organize a good forum as has been organized by others, and we still continue to rely on your support. So I wish once again to thank you so much and to promise to welcome you and do all that we can that we have a good conference, public procurement forum in Rwanda, and also to enable you to have a very enjoyable stay in Rwanda. Welcome to Rwanda next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CEO from Rwanda, for your remarks. And certainly the suggestion that you have made that you'll need the cooperation of all the forum members is definitely going to be the case. Because even for us in Tanzania, this time, the CEOs from all the countries were involved and have continued to be engaged even while here. So that will have to be done in the case of Rwanda playing host. So I can assure you on behalf of all colleagues that that's what is going to happen. So we look forward to the next forum to be held in Kigali, Rwanda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a symbolic event to hand over this affair to the next hosting country. If you would come here, and the chairman of PPRA Rwanda, who coincidentally this time it is the CEO who is representing the chairperson, and you will be handing him the mantle or kijiti. Anampa kijiti jamani, ili apokee na achukue hayo majukumu. Hapa mbele. Karibu hapa mbele hapa. Okay, this is now the symbolic event of handing over the organization of the forum for next year. Karibu sana, mwenyekiti.
Yes, following the commitment by Rwanda, I have the pleasure now to hand over this gulf to the incoming host. I have the honor to present this to and I wish Rwanda the best of luck. But will assure you the cooperation.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
This is good, I mean, but we have all to remember what the Rwandan representative has said. It's all about team working and collaboration, so let's not leave the onus of organizing this on themselves. Let all of the other countries give support, fully supporting Rwanda to organize the next one. And we do believe it will be organized in even better way than this one which we have organized in Tanzania. Another applause to Rwanda. And okay, ladies and gentlemen, can any of you participants sing the anthem of the East African? Is there any one of you who can sing that anthem fully, from beginning to the end? This is like a quiz, really. I was just thinking to myself, nobody is courageous enough to show he or she can. Yeah? But it's okay. We have to learn, yeah? We have to learn the song so that we keep singing it when it's being played. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, you have anything else to speak to the audience as we wait for the chief guests?
I would propose that maybe we adjourn for some few minutes while awaiting the arrival of the guest of honor, so that people can stretch their limbs. Another health break, for that matter. No? We just hang around because it's due to arrive any time. But in the meantime, we can stretch our limbs.
That's it. Well, the chairman has proposed, and I think it is a good idea. We just stretch our legs around, and when the guest of honor comes, we will... Anyway, lunch is still there waiting. Lunch is waiting for us, so please just be a bit more patient. Asanteni, poleni, samahani.
Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike.
Please listen to the song and catch the words. Sikilizeni kwa wimbo huo alafu mpate hayo maneno yanayosema.